Hi, everybody. Welcome to Open the Gates. I'm your host, Matt Burke. And today we're going to be having on Lucifer Storm. We're going to be talking about his book, ED GEIN Demon Hunter. So if you guys could give a warm welcome to Lucifer Storm. How's it going, brother?
Hello.
How you doing?
It's going good, man. How the devil art thou?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I've just been running around doing a bunch of different stuff. There's this art competition for
Sweet.
some guy I'm taking part in. There's a big reward for that, or a prize.
Cool.
So I've been working on my own book, so I wanted to kind of take a little break from that. You know, it's a good way to step away from your thing and go to the well of rejuvenation and come back.
Yeah, absolutely,
ready to
man.
do some more stuff.
I'm a big believer in have like a little side project or something to do, whether it's like a public thing or something that you're just doing for yourself. It's good to have that on the go because then you're still being productive, you're still being creative, and you get to walk away from something and come back to it with fresh eyes, and it just stays fresh. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Just keep it minty, right?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So I know who you are. I've watched you on Critical Blast before, and hearing you speak about ED GEIN, your book Demon Hunter, I backed the first 2 issues. I haven't read them yet. I want to do a review on them, but now I want to complete the quadrilogy.
Understandable.
Hell yeah. So if people don't know who you are, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, of course. I'm Lucifer Storm. I'm an award-winning graphic novelist from the UK. I've been working in comics since around 2010. I'm also a musician. I used to be the front man of a metal band. I collect morbid curiosities such as some weird taxidermy, vintage medical equipment. I recently got hold of a coffin. That's been my proudest one so far. And I'm a bit of a morbid soul, but a nice morbid soul. I don't bite unless you ask me very nicely.
That's always good, man. What's your favorite? Or I'm gonna say who are your major influences as far as like writing goes and whatnot, or even art.
I would definitely say that one of my major influences is Garth Ennis. I probably don't write anything like him, but I do. I mean, Preacher is one of my favorite comics of all time. And I don't think that's ever going to change. I don't think anything's really going to top it. I always say like Preacher and Fantastic Four, those have always been like my favorites. And I think one of the things that I love about Garth Ennis's writing is his unique take on gallows humor. Like he really pushes the boundaries with gallows humor of how far you can take it, but he almost does it in a kind of Looney Tunes kind of way, and that somehow makes it just that little bit more palatable. He kind of he made me realize that as a writer, it's okay to push the boundaries. It's okay to take the gloves off and go, right, we're not holding back. And right. I think a lot of writers should do that, regardless of what genre they write in or what audience they write for. They should be willing to just push the envelope just that little bit.
Yeah, it makes it much more almost artistic and unsafe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, on all of the campaigns for ED GEIN Demon Hunter, I've put up a quote by Cesar A. Cruz that says, art should disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed. And I do believe there is a hell of a lot of truth in that saying.
I believe so too. And like horror too. I believe horror should be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Otherwise, It's not really horrific. It could be good, but it's not horror, really, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm with you 100%. I've been a horror junkie ever since I was about 8 years old. And I had very strict parents who were like, "You're 8, you're not allowed to watch anything that ain't Sesame Street."
That's how my folks were. They were, fire and brimstone. Like I couldn't even watch He-Man, and it was around coming out of the Exorcist thing, and a lot of the where I live, there's a lot of churches. But doesn't mean my family was perfect. They did a bunch of crazy shit, but it's weird, like the balance. We did some. Now we're gonna go to church But
when I was a kid, I was always told sort of only sociopaths like horror movies, and like everyone with tattoos is a criminal kind of thing. I came from a very devout Christian family, and as I got that little bit older, I started learning little tricks. So we used to go to the video store every weekend. And in the UK around the time that I was growing up in the 80s, censorship was such a big thing because that was around the time of the video nasty. Yeah, we got it real bad.
You guys got it bad, dude.
It took till 1999 when they finally unbanned The Exorcist. You know, so the only way you could get it back then was through like bootlegs on VHS and stuff, and some of them were grainy as fuck. You couldn't see anything. Other ones had these weird Dutch subtitles at the bottom and shit. And I remember going into the video store one weekend when I was about 7, 8 years old, and like I would always see all the fucking horror movie posters and the VHS covers, and I was like, oh, I so want to watch one of that. I want to see what it's like. Do sociopaths really watch this shit? You know, and I questioned everything from such a young age. And I found one, and it was the Monster Squad, and I just loved the cover so much. And I was just sort of like, hey mom, can I rent this? And she was like, no fucking way, like you need to be at least 18 years old to like watch that. And I was like, but I saw it on TV.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, well, if you've seen it before, then yeah, sure, we'll rent it. And I was like, cool, I just lied to her.
Hey, you gotta watch it, you know? I love that cover too. That blue cover, right?
Yeah,
all the characters are in blue, and then the car,
and then you got
in the middle. It's like
you got the hearse on the front, and you got all the kids sat on it, and there's like Rudy like trying to look fucking cool.
You know? So good.
And it was one of those things, like I was too young to watch it at that time, but I still had a fucking awesome time watching it. And after that, I was just like, okay, I'm hooked. Like I need more and more and more. And like there'd be certain movies that would come on TV, and like my parents would be like, you're not fucking watching that movie. So I used to give my friends VHS tapes and like a couple of bucks and be like, can you record that movie for me?
Like that?
Yeah, exactly.
You got the shit? All right.
It literally was at such a young age. It was just this horror shit was, you know, horror was being peddled around like it was fucking heroin for some reason.
No nunchucks. Do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we had like Bruce Lee movies here was censored because he used nunchucks.
He's like, what the fuck? Where'd they go?
When that 80s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon first came out over here, our government thought that the word ninja was too violent, so they changed it to hero.
Yeah.
And they had to redub the theme song and everything, and just like, and now half the shit that's being released over here is like, it makes all that shit look tame.
Right? Like Sunday school cartoons.
Yeah, absolutely. But I guess that's always like played a role into my writing as well, because it was always that thing of like, what is so bad about this movie? What is so bad about this story that people don't want me to see it? And why can't I be the judge of whether I should be? Because at the end of the day, if I put something on and it doesn't suit me, I'm going to turn it off. Like I may be a child, but I'm not a fucking idiot. And now I'm an adult and an idiot. So, you know? But yeah, like I was going out there, and like when I was a teenager, like I made friends with like a couple of bootleggers, and you know, they were getting me stuff here that was banned, like Cannibal Holocaust and Faces of Death. And like I was like, Cannibal Holocaust is the one that sticks with me so much. You probably see like I've got a wooden like box set behind me of Cannibal Holocaust, because I just think that tale has such an important message, but yeah, it's so visceral and guttural, and the imagery that you're seeing is just so harsh, but there's this real nice story behind it. Hey man,
I was wondering too about your process, if you want to talk about it, like
yeah, of course.
So you obviously, you're the writer, you do a script, and you do the plot, and also you do the story. But when you're doing like breakdowns for your artists, do you do any thumbnailing or anything like that, or how does that work?
I do excuse me, I do thumbnailing for me. Like whenever I'm working on a scene, I don't do it with all scenes. Some of the scenes, they kind of play in my head like they're a movie, and I just break them down to their basic actions. You know, and I go, okay, do we really need to focus on this particular beat of the scene? Because if we do, instead of putting that in one panel, I'll break it down to 2 or 3 panels and so on. But occasionally, just to figure out the scene and make sure that it's got that nice pacing, that nice flow, you know, I will pull out a piece of paper, fold it in half, or a couple of sheets and fold it in half, and then I'll thumbnail it for myself so that I know how to describe it to an artist. But I don't actually hand them any thumbnails whatsoever. Okay. With the next book, that might be a little bit different, because there are certain scene transitions that are going to be so fucking difficult to explain in script form. But with Ed Gein, it was dead easy. Like, the only imagery that I really passed on to Christian was crime scene photos from the actual Ed Gein case, and like pictures of Ed Gein in court and being arrested, and going, look, he's obviously going to be playing a big part. He's the titular character. So have this, and, you know, we need to see some of his history. So here's what Warden's hardware looks like.
Nice.
Here's what the Gein family farmhouse looks like. Here's what they discovered in the kitchen and stuff like that. And yeah, apart from that, it was all just, here's a script, Christian. Go with the grace of God and do your thing and make it fucking badass. And then he would hand the thumbnails over to me and be like, what do you think of these? And I'd be like, they're fucking gorgeous. Go pencil, go. You know.
Ooh. Nice. So he was sending you the thumbnails and layouts and stuff. And before, oh, okay. That's cool,
like
man.
the process with the illustration and the pages, you know, that was great, because we worked it out that I'd sent him all the scripts straight away. I don't like to write an issue, get it done, and then write the next issue. I like to have it all planned out, all plotted, and then write a first draft of all the issues, and then I go back and do the tweaks and do however many drafts that I need to do. I think this is one of the few times that we only did 2 drafts on the script.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I passed them all to him, let him read them. He'd come back and be like, this is awesome, man. I've got loads of ideas and stuff. We'll do it issue by issue, and we'll work in batches of 5 pages. So what he would do is he would sit down, he would thumbnail an entire issue, send me the thumbnails. I'd go through them and go, okay, this is awesome. So please go ahead. You've already got character design stuff. Go ahead and start penciling the pages. So what he would do is he would take the first 5 pages, pencil them, send them over to me for approval, and I'd be like, yep, this is awesome. Go ahead and ink it. He would then ink those 5 pages. I'd pay him for those 5 pages, and then he'd be like, cool, well, there's your pages. And whilst I was lettering those pages, he'd be working on the next 5 pages. And he would keep going like that until we got to the end of the issue. And at the end of the issue, the final batch, because they were 28-page issues, the final batch of pages would actually be 3 pages and the cover. He would always do the cover last.
Nice. Makes sense.
But yeah, that's generally how it worked. And I've got to admit, like, when we were doing the first issue, it kind of felt like a little bit of a slow burn. But then you would blink and be like, oh no, hold on, the first issue's finished. We're already halfway through the second issue. And before you knew it, we are where we are now. And it's like, wow, we've got 4 issues under our belt, and we're both really hyped and really happy with the end result. It just worked out so well. I never had to chase Christian up on any work, and he never really had to chase me up on anything. You know, there was so much trust there. Working throughout the whole project, it was an absolute dream project to work on.
Yeah, it seemed like you guys had like a nice well-oiled machine, watching from a distance and seeing how these books are coming out pretty quick. And I got your package in the mail. It was a nice big box. Oh yeah. And I just it's like, wow, man, that came pretty quick. He's already got the next one done, and then you're talking about how you're almost done with the 4th one, I think, or it's going to the printers, right?
Yes. Before we even started the campaign for issues 3 and 4, issue 3 had already been put in print. I've actually got a copy of it right here in my hand. So issue 3,
I love that. That's my favorite one.
Already in print, and issue 4 literally got sent off to the printers yesterday, and it should be with me by Monday. So even though we're nearly like towards the end of the first 30 days of the campaign, book's already done, and I think that's the best way to do it, because I did mess up a little bit with the Lady Satan campaign that I did before Ed Gein, and now me and Christian are going to be working on Lady Satan so that we can get that fulfilled for those backers, because they've been waiting patiently, and I cannot thank them enough for their patience, without a shadow of a doubt. but that definitely taught me, like, yeah, no matter what, get as close to finishing a fucking issue or the entire book as possible, then do the campaign.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Like right now, I'm working on my book, and it's gonna take me like 2 years, you know. And just because I just know, man. Like I gotta, and then there's problems too. Like when you start shipping and printing, and like I guess the rule of thumb now, like I was saying, like add 6 months to your fulfillment time or whatever. And then someone else is saying that too, so they're thinking the same way because you never know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you just never know what's going to come up that can get in the way of stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, I had an absolutely shit start to the beginning of this year, and by that point, Lady Satan had already been delayed a hell of a lot. And you know, I had things like I had a friend who cut their wrists in front of me. I had someone who was stalking me and harassing me, and I had to go through like the legal procedure with that and stuff. And that was just like the tip of the iceberg. And I thought, fucking hell, what has 2022 got against me? What have I done to 2022 to deserve this kind of thing? And that, you know, that all played into it. And there was stuff that was going on towards the end of 2021 that got in the way as well. And you know, that eventually led to my realization of, like, you know what, I'm not the best person to be drawing this book anyway. Christian is. So luckily I managed to be like, Christian, I want to give you more money. And he was like, oh, let me think. Yeah, you twisted my arm, I'll do it.
I love his art too, man. Well, that's cool that like you kind of got that, hopefully that stuff behind you in the beginning of the year. You know? And now you're closing out the year pretty damn strong from where I see.
Yeah, I definitely feel so. There's like a lot of work ahead. Hey, who have we got here on screen?
How you doing?
Hey, Amanda. Yeah, you know, I like I said, the first half of this year was just shite, absolutely shite. But this second half, it definitely has been strong. It's gone a lot better. The future's definitely a lot brighter. I mean, like, I've still had, like, you know, the odd thing, the odd hiccup here and there. You know, there have definitely been people who have been slightly vocal about the Ed Gein book and how they're not happy with it. I've had one guy who I'm not gonna mention his name, it's not worth it, but he was out there accusing me of being part of a fucking hate group and trying to get the book banned from stores and trying to get me blacklisted from conventions and stuff. He managed to get the book banned from one store, but I had several others being like, how do we get hold of this book?
Yeah. There's the whole,
and
there's a whole audience out there of like moms, like in like California and like all over the place that if read comics, they would read this. Like they're into that stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I'm telling you, like,
absolutely.
I mean, obviously it falls into the horrific fantasy realm, right? But from what I gather, I haven't tapped into it, but it also goes into the true crime era in some ways as well, too. You know, it tiptoes in a little bit of that. You said you were in a metal band. I gotta know, man. What's your favorite metal band?
What's my favorite metal band? Oh man, there's too many to choose from. Too many to choose from. How long have you got? Because I'm gonna list you fucking tons.
Okay, do three then. Do three.
Okay, well, when I first got into metal, one of my favorites was Korn.
Okay, me too.
You know, and that's because when I started getting into them, they literally had the debut album. That was it. So I got to like watch them grow and stuff, and like I was discovering things like 9 Inch Nails and Entombed and stuff. And as time's gone on, you know, bands like Lamb of God have come into the frame, and they are just fucking spectacular, absolutely spectacular. Man, trying to narrow it down to three is hard because I'm like, do I pick 9 Inch Nails? Do I pick Tool? Do I pick Dillinger Escape Plan? Like, there's
Dillinger's
so
crazy too.
Many. Oh god, yes, absolutely.
So mathematic, dude, and jazzy and metal and so many other things. You know what I mean? It takes like 20 listens per album just to kind of like process it and then judge it. That type of band. I mean, for me, you know, it's like so intricate.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? To me, metal is a lot like horror. There are all these different subgenres. Correct. And it's very easy for people to pick a subgenre and just stick to that subgenre. But for me, I like all of it.
Yeah. You know? Like I was telling you earlier, I'm a genre whore. I'm also a metal whore too. Like I like them all. You know what I mean? And I'm always want to listen to new stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
just because it's interesting. It interests me, But
yeah, and I like seeing the progress over the years. It's nice revisiting some of the older stuff. Like I love it when I go into my local pub, because the jukebox there, like 1 minute they'll have something like Architects playing, which is something very recent, and then all of a sudden you'll hear like Black Sabbath come on.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, that contrast because of the progression over the years is just such a beautiful thing to hear.
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah, Black Sabbath's awesome. Like for me, like that, they're like one of the first fathers. You know what I mean? The elder statesmen, founding fathers, them and Motorhead for me. But I mean, there's so many more. You know what I mean? But I always ask people that when they come on.
If you had to do like a Mount Rushmore of like metal bands, who are the 4 metal bands you're picking for that? Because I'm with you on Black Sabbath and Motorhead. I'd have to add Led Zeppelin in there as well.
Yeah.
I don't know who the 4th one would be.
It's kind of hard, man. I mean, like you could also say like Deep Purple. A lot of people, I mean that's one of them, but it's hard to say that the first 2 are easy, but and even the third with Zeppelin, but that 4th one's kind of hard,
because I mean you've mentioned Deep Purple. That's a fucking great one. I would throw in for nominations at least Rush and Pink Floyd as well. I'd throw them in there. There was another one on the tip of my tongue.
And then if you AC/DC, and if you step down a little bit too, you got like Maiden, you know what I mean? And then there's a bunch of other bands too that like that I forget because there's so many and they're like so underground. They release like maybe 2 or 3 albums in their 70s and 60s, but they're fucking heavy and we just forget about them and you have to go do deep dives on them, Like I was I'm really into like the the just like Scandinavian metal and stuff, and I watched like documentary, and there was like 200 or more bands, maybe 300 bands that like started from the 60s all the way till now, all the way through black metal and Viking metal, and melodic death metal that like have been there, you know what I mean, that you never even heard of them, you know what I mean? So
exactly. The sea of metal is so deep.
Yeah, dude, it's so rich, and for me it's a blanket statement. Like for me, metal is just so vast, and I don't consider, you know what I mean? Like it's for me, like most people, that's not metal. I think it is, you know what I mean? Like, and you could pretty much argue a lot,
Oh, cool, absolutely, absolutely.
I was wondering, man, do you think we could show your campaign? I mean, I got it up right here. If you like, we can show it on your end. You like to show it on my end?
If you don't mind, that'd be great.
Sweet. Go ahead and share it real quick. Here we go. There it is. You got a okay. Yeah, I like that. That cover right there, man. With the chainsaw.
I do as well. There's like it screams horror. It lets you know what you're getting in for. I do feel that there's a slight Scooby-Doo vibe to it as well.
Maybe a little
which
bit.
I absolutely love. I absolutely love that. So
makes it fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at that. Issues 3 and 4 of a 4-issue miniseries. Issue 4 cover art to be revealed. Sweet. Stunning black and white artwork. Full color cover. Exclusive Indiegogo perps. Trade paperback option available. I kind of want all of them, man, to be honest. Like that paperback would be cool. I like the covers too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, in the updates, we have shown the cover to issue 4.
Oh, sweet.
So if you want to take a quick look,
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
It's like you got her finally. Maybe, possibly.
There's only one way to find out, kids, and that's back the book.
You're almost there too, man. And
it's going really well. I think we've got like 11 days left. We're around 47% funded, which is absolutely fantastic. It does look like we will go on and extend it by another 30 days, which was something that I probably would have done regardless of how far we were with the funding at this moment.
Love this artwork, man. And what I like about his art, I mean, he's his own style now. Like I could kind of pick him out when I see him because I've seen a lot of the work he's done. but it reminds what I liked. What drew me to his art. It reminded me of the old school Mignola that I liked.
Yes,
the old school, like when he just started doing Hellboy, like the first 4 issues, maybe before his shoulders, when he was bigger and before his shoulders started slouching and he had the world on his shoulders, and that's what I like, man. Like when he was doing the Bram Stoker's Dracula, that's my favorite movie.
Oh yeah,
I have that. I got the adaptation, or I got the comic book in black and white because they had it in color.
Nice.
In the graphic novel, and I was like, always wanted that, and I could never get, and I never even knew it was around till later on in life. I loved the movie, and then I find out he did the thumbnail. He was the storyboard artist for the movie, and I saw an interview with him where like Coppola was calling him all the time, asking him about stuff. But anyways, back to Ed Gein. I love, I'm loving this art, man. Really, cool.
I'm a sucker for black and white art, and Christian's art's phenomenal.
Me too, and it really like. I was talking to, I always say like when you're watching or reading black and white comics, your head kind of like populates color in there, thoughts of color kind of involuntarily kind of, for me anyways, go in and out of your head, and you just assume that, I don't know, like color's there, but it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
It's hard to put to words, but I love the horror too, and like sword and sorcery. I love black and white. It's good for anything, but I think it's really cool in there, especially because of how black is so heavy because of the starkness of it. You know, it carries a lot of weight. I know it sounds kind of cliche and all, but
it's amazing how many different moods you can create in a scene just with black and white, and maybe a little bit of gray tone or gray wash once in a blue moon, but mostly just using the two colors, black and white. The amount of stuff you can do with it, and I find that it's, when you've got a color comic, don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against color comics. I do like color comics.
Yeah.
But with color comics, I can kind of turn my brain off just that little bit more. Whereas with a black and white comic, I have to be a bit more involved. You know, that like the artist and the writer, they've done a lot of work, and now I have to do a bit of work as well.
Yeah. I love the colors too. Like on the cover, like if the book was ever colored, like it would look tight. It would look good like that too.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
I'm not saying I would want it in color, but for me being like a horror whatever nut, I do like to see the gore. I like to see the blood. Sometimes it looks cool.
Of course.
And then sometimes you get the black and white and red. Some people do that, which is always fun.
Oh yeah. I like it when people do that.
Brutal, man. You want to give us a little inside baseball on the Ed Gein story? Anything you could tell us about it?
Yes, absolutely. Excuse me.
For your book, for your book, if you want to touch into the, look at that. I like that.
Yeah. I can give you the pitch.
Yeah,
for that. That's not a problem. So, Ed Gein Demon Hunter is an adventure horror story. Told across 4 issues. It's based in the 90s, 7 years after Ed Gein has actually died, and it involves some heroics. It's got some humor, and it's also got a little bit of heart to it. Normally in a frying pan, but there's still a little bit of heart to it. Like I said, it takes place 7 years after Ed's died, so it's 1991, and Satan's just discovered that there's this deranged demon that has escaped hell, and it's found a way not only to escape hell, but once back on Earth, it can. It's discovered that if it finds its original remains, even if there's just a tiny bit of bone that's left, if it's got those original remains, they can find their way into heaven. And this particular demon wants to go to heaven because they feel cheated by God, and they want to prove that God isn't infallible. And by doing that, that would mean the destruction of the entire universe, everything from heaven, hell, and in between. So Satan's obviously a bit panicked because that includes him. And he sat there thinking, oh man, like if I go after the demon, I did that once before when a demon escaped, and everyone who occupies hell, they started a holy war in heaven in my name, and I don't want that happening again. So I need to send someone else as a demon hunter. And he thinks to himself, I know, a serial killer. The problem being is if you send John Wayne Gacy, if you send Ted Bundy, they don't care about the universe being destroyed. They're going to be like, cool, I've got time to have some fun. I'm back on Earth. How many people can I kill? Whereas he feels that Ed actually has a little bit of remorse in him, and that he will actually come back and do the job. So he decides to send Ed Gein back into the field in Plainfield, Wisconsin, along with a Hellspawn who normally serves Satan, is normally by his side the whole time, but feels like it's best to send him out there with Ed. It's also part of this Hellspawn's punishment because he questioned Satan's plans at one point. But obviously he can't send him in his normal form. So he disguises him as a bloodhound. And together they go out to find and hunt and capture this deranged demon to bring it back to hell. But in order for Ed to capture this demon, he must first deal with his internal demons.
That's awesome, man. Sounds like a good pitch.
Thank you.
Can't wait to read it, man. I can't wait.
We had a lot of fun, right? I had a lot of fun writing this book. Christian had a lot of fun drawing it. Putting those two things together was a lot of fun. And, you know, so far, apart from a couple of people who, as I've mentioned, you know, they've been like, this is wrong. This is bad. This is evil. You're a bad person. Pretty much everyone who's read it has had a really good time with this book.
That's all I hear.
Everyone that's
read it says it's awesome. You know what I mean? Looks awesome to me too. That's why I backed it. I want to get this one. And it's cool. Cool if I go over some of these perks.
Yeah, of course.
We got the featured trade paperback right here, and that's going to be all 4 issues combined, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that's all 4 issues combined, and we're going to have some supplementary material in there as well. I'm currently looking for someone to write an introduction for the book. I'm trying to find the most appropriate person to write an introduction for the book.
Sweet. Then right here we got the digital one.
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool.
So there's an option because when issue 3 went to print, it was available on my website in both digital and print forms. So some backers were like, hey, I want to back this, but I only want issue 4. So I had to add a couple of tiers in there where if you just want issue 4, you can get issue 4. If you want issues 3 and 4, you can do that. There's also a catch-up tier where you can get issues 1, 2, 3, and 4. But if you're someone who's, let's say that you backed issue 1, but you didn't back issue 2. All you have to do is back issues 3 and 4. And then as an add-on perk, you can add issue 2, either in digital or print, to your order and go from there. So there's so many different ways you can cut it up. So whatever issue you're missing, you'll be covered. There's a way of getting it.
Nice. And then there's the issue 4. It's coming pretty soon. I mean, the art just came. We just look at that. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, and you get the bundle. You get 1 and 2. Catch up. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward stuff.
Yep. We also do retailer perks. So with each individual issue, if you get a retailer perk, that's 10 copies of each individual issue. If it's a trade paperback, it's 5 copies of the trade paperback. And then, you know, we've got various stretch goals that hopefully we will hit because I really want to give them to you.
Oh, nice. Let's see here. Check out some of the stretch goals. We got a t-shirt coming soon, huh?
Yep. If we hit that, I think that's like the 15,000 bucks stretch goal. If we hit that, then every backer will get a free t-shirt, poster, postcards, bookmark, sticker, koozie, the works.
Damn, all that stuff, huh? Wow.
Oh yeah.
That's attainable too. I've seen it happen before. Yeah, that'd be cool, man. All that stuff.
It'd be great.
That's sweet, man.
But I mean, if we don't hit that stretch goal, then I'm sure those items will become available to purchase from my website in the future. But if we hit the stretch goal, we can make them happen sooner.
That's awesome, man. Well, that's cool, man. You guys are halfway there. If you guys can come and check out Ed Gein, Demon Hunter, you got issues 1 through 4. And yeah, man, this book looks awesome. Can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's on IGG. I have the link at the top and also in the description. So, but what I was gonna ask you, man, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, favorite movie. That once again, that's like the metal band question. There's so many to choose from.
Right.
I mean, it depends on what day you've caught me on. Like if you catch me on one day, I'm gonna say Phantasm. from 1979 because that's such a good movie. You Catch Me
Yeah.
on Another Day, and I'm going to say Dawn of the Dead from 1978. Catch Me on Another Day, and it will be David Cronenberg's remake of The Fly from '86 because that's a great fucking movie.
Yeah.
The original Hellraiser movie is something I'm a huge fan of. I mean, I like a lot of the mainstream horror that came out over the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even the early 2000s. I feel there was a lot of good horror coming out.
Yeah.
But I'm also into the extreme horror scene, the underground horror scene. So stuff like the guinea pig movies from Japan, like Flower of Flesh and Blood and Devil's Experiment. I was a fan of those movies as well, even though they're not exactly easily accessible here in the UK. I mentioned Cannibal Holocaust earlier. That's a movie that I absolutely love.
Maybe that
I'm a defender. Some people are going to hate me for this. I am a defender of a Serbian film. I think that is a brilliant movie. Horribly disturbing. Yes. But I still think it's an excellent movie. Such a amazing story. Not for the faint of heart. I love the August Underground trilogy from Toe Tag Inc. Don't know if you ever heard of those movies at all.
No, I haven't heard of those.
So Toe Tag Inc. was started by a guy called Fred Vogel, and he was, if I remember correctly, he was a student of Tom Savini.
Oh, okay.
And his special effects work, is all practical. And he really wanted to showcase it in a unique way. He didn't just want to work on some small films and cut together a showreel. So he made a movie called August Underground. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to make a fake snuff film that looked so real, people thought it was a real snuff film. And originally he wanted to put it out on VHS. He had this plan where he was going to leave a copy on the outside all these different government buildings to see if like the press would pick up on it and stuff, but he didn't in the end because he planned it for September 11th 2001. So he ended up going, okay, we're not doing that.
Not a good idea.
And he just put it out there, and it started building up this following, and he made 2 sequels to it. And if I remember correctly, it was the second one, August Underground's Mordom. He went to promote it in Canada and actually got arrested because the border patrol or whatever, they thought it was a real snuff film. And they had him like interrogating him, go like, we know you made it. What happened to these women that we see on this screen and all that? And he's like, well, one of them's my wife who sat right next to me. Kind of thing. But they are very extreme films. Once again, you try getting them in the UK, it's so difficult. But with the powers of the internet, you can you can find it quite easily. So yeah, I like all sorts of movies. I'm a huge horror fan, though. Horror will always be my number one go-to.
Do you see Terrifier 2?
No, I haven't even seen Terrifier yet. I'm letting the side down by saying that.
You gotta, check it out, man. It's you gotta watch the first one. The first one first.
Yeah,
you don't have to, but I think it makes it better. You know what I mean? And the story changes. They were 10 years apart, I think. But the guy that plays the clown Art, that was his first movie role. And if you were to see him, he looks like he looked like he'd be like a perfect Joker, But the character doesn't speak; it's all a mime,
Oh, that's cool.
Really creepy. It's got that old school like 80s, 70s feel to it,
Yeah.
But the new one was pretty crazy, man, and it didn't end the way I anticipated it to end. So it switched up. It was long movie.
I've heard amazing things about both Terrifier and Terrifier 2, and they are movies that I definitely want to see. I did see the new Hellraiser movie that they put out on Hulu. I loved it.
I seen it too.
Absolutely adored it. What did you think of it?
I thought it was cool. I like the original Cenobites, but I think that the design of the new one was cool. It was something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
liked what they did with the puzzle box. I thought that was very interesting. How it would change shape and form. Thought that was more interesting. I like the location, like the house, and just that setup. But I mean, for me, it's ultimately like I love Hellraiser 1 and 2. Those are my 2 favorites.
Yes,
I like the leather bound, S&M like metal, Cenobites, you know what I mean? Like they're just a little more fun, but these ones were cool. And I know that Clive Barker intended it to be maybe like a female type character from the get, as opposed to what they ended up with in the original. But it was cool, man. It was all right. You know, a lot of people were hating on it and stuff. But I thought it was cool. I put it at number 3. For me, it's number 3 in the whole like franchise, personally.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you, I love the first 2 movies. I think they are absolutely incredible. And I was very skeptical going into this one, thinking, "Oh God, are they going to mess it up again?" I mean, how many times can you mess up Hellraiser and you want to go again? You know, but I really liked it because like when they got to the house and everything, I was like, oh, now you've got this Southern Gothic feel to it. Like it was quite open at the beginning, and then it got all enclosed and stuff. I was like, wow, like they've done something really special with this movie, and this feels like a Hellraiser movie. Like I can now see there are 3 movies out of the fucking franchise that I'm like, yes, this is awesome, rather than just 2.
And I noticed they're doing that, like Hulu. They're like low key, like they're taking like horror adjacent franchises like Predator, Hellraiser, and they're making these movies. Like I don't know what they're gonna do next, but I liked Prey. I thought that was cool. I haven't
seen Prey, but I've heard that's amazing.
It was good, and it was it was a prequel to the whole franchise. Not spoiling too much, but it was good. But yeah, man. I mean, definitely check out those Terrifier 2, Prey. You've already seen Hellraiser. I mean, and then there was what else was there? I was trying to think of like newer movies kind of slipping out of my head. But I don't know if you saw the Northman. That one was pretty good.
I haven't seen that one yet either.
That one's really I like that one a lot.
I mean, I've got this really bad habit of I'll sit there and I'll be like, okay, I want to watch a movie or I want to watch a TV show.
There are
so many new ones that I could go for. And then I end up going, I think I'll just watch this again. I'll watch South Park again, or I'll watch Dawn of the Dead for the umpteenth time, kind of.
No,
I'm really good at doing that. And
I do the same shit.
During that first lockdown back in 2020, I started off like going, well, I've got time to catch up with some of the newer movies, and I was putting them on, and going, oh, this sucks, and this sucks, and this sucks. So I ended up watching loads of movies from like the 70s and 80s and 90s that I'd just never seen before, and I had a great time with those. You know, like,
oh yeah, me too.
Like until then, I hadn't seen Night of the Creeps, and I was just like, oh my God, why haven't I seen this till now? Why was I waiting so long to see this movie?
And that goes back to like when you were in the video store as a kid. Like for me, like some of these movies, like I seen the posters, I seen the VHS covers. You know, I remember Dead Alive. I seen that image of the mouth with the skull in there, and I was like, I'm gonna watch that movie. And it took like, I don't know, 18 years, 15 years, and eventually I seen it, I was like, whoa. And I had already seen, Evil Dead 1 and 2, and I was like, this is like the New Zealand version of like Ash and Evil Dead, and it's kind of even taken to the next level in some regard, right? And I was like, this is
that movie is fucking amazing. Like so many quotable lines. Like even the first time I saw that movie, I must have been about 14. Yeah, I was around 14 when I first saw it. And for years afterwards, I'd still go around saying, I kick ass for the Lord.
I kick ass for the Lord.
Or my other favorite one was always, your mother ate my dog. Not all of it. Like that movie is so underrated. Like, did you ever see the movies that he made before that? Bad Taste, Meet the Feebles. What was the other one? There was a third one as well, and I'm forgetting it. But Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles were what Peter Jackson made before Dead Alive, and those are just absolutely outstanding.
Oh wow! Look at this guy. Turkey, criminal psychology graduate student, and I have the childhood knowledge of a serial killer. Okay. I'm wondering, why do you think you're curious about the field, and why are you talking now? Oh, okay. Well.
Hello. Hey, from the UK to Turkey. I think serial killers are very... It's not just that they seem to be very popular at the moment. I mean, I've always been into learning about serial killers since I was about 15, 16. They always fascinated me. And I think the reason they fascinate me is because, like I was saying earlier, like when I was a kid, I was always told things like, oh, you know, if someone's got tattoos, they're a criminal and stuff. I remember being a kid and like I was at a wedding, a family member was getting married, and I saw someone who had tattoos, and I actually walked up to them and was like, hey, you got tattoos? Does that mean you're a criminal? And they were like, no. And I was like, someone's lied to me.
Right.
And I always hear people talk about serial killers in the term of they're a monster, they're a monster, they're a monster. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. When you point a finger of blame, there are three pointing back at you. Okay, we need to step back from this a second, and we need to remember, like, it's understandable that people point at them and go, they're a monster. What's more scary is that they're actually a human being, and that they could have been any one of us.
Yeah, and it stems from like how they're treated as a child most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, Ed Gein was abused like there was no tomorrow.
Right.
We even pointed out at one point in the book that one of his earliest memories was from when he was a toddler. He just learned how to walk, and he nearly fell down some stairs. And like any normal parent would have been like, "Oh my god, he's safe. Okay, cool." Right, don't do that again. You know, there would obviously be a bit of frustration, but you understand, a very young child, they don't understand. And you're just glad that they're safe. But his mother wasn't like that. She picked him up by his arm and started screaming at him, saying, I hate you, you little shit. You know, this, that, and the other. Horrible. Because she, with Ed, she, before he was even born and she was pregnant, you know, she used to pray to God saying, please give me a daughter. Please give me a daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And then she got Ed. And that was something that, you know, I don't know whether that sent her over the edge or not. I mean, there's so much to dig into there. It's such a dense topic of conversation. But the fact of the matter is, the mother was exceptionally abusive. The dad was an alcoholic. And I'm sure that his alcoholism was more than likely caused from the fact that she wasn't just abusive to her children. She was probably abusive to him as well. And in turn, he needed to escape that. He started getting drunk, which would have made him abusive towards her and possibly the children as well.
Right.
So it created this cycle. And like I said, everyone loves to point at Ed Gein and go, he's a monster, he's a monster, he's a monster. Now, I'm not going to say that they're wrong. I'm just going to say this. If you were Ed and you grew up in those circumstances and you were treated that way, tell me that you wouldn't have done something as bad as, or even worse. You can't guarantee it. We also need to bear in mind that with Ed Gein, he was an undiagnosed schizophrenic. And it's very popular nowadays to talk about mental health, and that's not a bad thing.
Right.
The unfortunate side is everyone is not everyone. That's being hyperbolic, and I don't want to be hyperbolic. There are large groups of people that want to make out that every single mental health issue isn't a bad thing. Unfortunately, there are some mental health issues that are incurable, and if someone has those mental health issues, it doesn't just damage their lives, it damages the lives of others. We can't treat it all as it's okay. There's still more that people need to learn. The general knowledge of mental health disorders across the public is not that of 7.5 billion professionals. You know, the professionals on that subject matter, they're about this many in a sea of this many.
Exactly.
Okay? So, like, you know, if you've got people going, oh my God, like, you know, we shouldn't punish people with PTSD. You're right. We shouldn't. Anyone who's got PTSD, that's a really hard fucking thing to live with, PTSD. But you can't put sociopathy in the same bag as PTSD.
Exactly. And as far as oh, sorry.
Well, that's right. You carry on.
Well, I was going to say, as far as that's to make it short, we find them interesting and what made them the way they were. That's a short, sweet answer, but there's a multitude of reasons why. And a lot of people do. You know, like Mindhunter. Let's see here. I started with William Heron's when I was 13. I saw the broadcast on Twitter and joined it. It's nice to listen to, and I thank you. And thank you for playing. No, thank you. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's great that you're here. Glad you're enjoying it.
I was going to ask you too, man, what's your favorite beer if you do drink? You know, and if you don't, What's your favorite drink?
I do occasionally drink. I have had problems with alcohol in the past, so I try not to drink. But occasionally, like certain points in my life, I can just have one, and I'm okay with that. I used to drink Jägermeister like there was no tomorrow.
The licorice.
Oh yes, and I'm a huge fan of Apple Jack Daniels. That is my favorite demon in a bottle by far. But I also love Merlot. Like a nice glass of Merlot is real nice. When it comes to beers and lagers, the unfortunate truth is I love Budweiser, but I'm actually allergic to it. So, so my favorite beer I can't even fucking drink. If not that, I'd probably go with Beck's. Beck's is a nice beer. Nice
you guys have those Samuel Smiths over there?
Not that I'm aware of.
I think there's a beer that's it's a line called Samuel Smith. They have like oatmeal stout. They have organic beer. They have all kinds of different dark imperial stouts. I think it's from London.
Yeah,
but London does have a couple of good ones, or from England. I'm sorry. They have a couple really good beers over there. Old speckled, I think it's Old Speckled Hen.
Old Speckled Hen. Yes,
that one's pretty good. I like that one. Dude, I'm just trying to think of all of them. I think no, I was gonna say bad.
There's so many.
But Boddington's Pub Ale. I don't think that one is from there, but I used to drink that all the time in my 20s. Just crack it and let it sit there. You know
that. There was Boddington's, and there was Newcastle Brown Ale.
I loved Newcastle, and then somebody told me something. It just kind of fucked me up. I don't know why. It just made me mad for some reason, but it's stupid. It shouldn't have made me mad. My buddy's like, "Hey, dude, you know they put caramel coloring in there, right?" I'm like, "What? They put caramel coloring in there? Those bastards!" For some reason, it like pissed me off for some reason. But I loved it. I loved it. You know, I thought it was like a natural like caramelization that was in the hops or whatever. You know what I'm talking?
Yeah, but yeah, I guess I'm more of a spirits guy than I am a bit. Like when I was younger, it was always beer, because it was just so much cheaper. But as I got older, I was like, oh, actually, I'm preferring whiskey a bit more. Yeah, whiskey's really doing it for me. Yeah. What about you? What's your favorite drink of choice?
My favorite, well, as far as, because I like them all, but I prefer to drink more of the spirits. I usually drink beer on Tuesdays when I do this show, and then and I've just been doing this cheap Rolling Rock ale, just because it's pretty smooth, and it's one of the first pale ales over here, I think.
Nice.
But my favorite beer is just Vitus from Weinstefener from Germany. That one's really good. It's like a Hefeweizen, a dark Hefeweizen. I like the dark beers.
I'm so glad you mentioned Germany. Back in 2013. I was a guest at a convention in Germany, and it was a horror and comic convention stuff. So there was people like myself. There was Mr. Lordy from the band Lordy. You had you had Robert Englund was there. You had some of the Walking Dead cast there. Rowdy Roddy Piper was there. You had it was super cool. There were like 3 different Jasons there, a couple of Michael Myers and stuff. You had people from Texas Chainsaw Massacre stuff. Absolutely great time. And the night before the convention started, they had this private party for all the guests. So I'm there kind of like, okay, I feel like a little fish in a big fucking pond at this point, because there's all these guys walking around that I'm like,
icons.
Oh my God, when I was absolute icons. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
Right.
Yeah, kind of thing. But because it was like a private party, like they have smoking laws there, like, you know, you can't smoke inside, but if it's a private party, you can. And they had like a bar set up. And there was me and John Duggan, and John Duggan played Grandpa in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay. And we were just chatting, getting on and stuff. And we walked over to the bar to get a drink. And I was looking at all the different drinks they had. And I was like, what the hell is cola beer? And they were like, would you like to try some? And I was like, yes. And now I can't stop fucking drinking the stuff. And what amazed me about it was they didn't go, okay, well, we'll get some Coke or some Pepsi and we'll get some beer and we'll pour them together and make a mix for you. It was on tap. It was already pre-mixed.
Oh, even better.
I was like, what the hell is this? And now, whenever I go to a bar now, especially if it's like out of town or if I'm at a convention out of my hometown stuff, when I go to a bar, I'm just like, yeah, I want a cola beer. And they're just,
right.
sorry,
I want a cola beer.
Who?
That sounds good to me. Yeah, man,
It's a
crazy,
nice little drink.
Yeah.
Like, especially like on a hot summer's day, if you're out the back of a pub in a beer garden or whatever, and you just want like a relaxed, cool drink whilst you soak up the sun, perfect, absolutely perfect.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that's. I was gonna say with like whiskey, I like like the rye whiskey. I started getting into that during the pandemic when I was working.
Yeah,
I was working in grocery stores and stuff, and
oh yeah,
everybody was going down, man. Everybody was getting it, you know. And I would they were my work would give me gift certificates just to like, oh, here you go, boom, you know. And I would just you know, because I was working, you know, and I didn't get it, thank God. And so I would just get rye whiskey, and every couple of days I'd knock back a little bit of that, you know, and boom, I'd get a little itch right here, boom, and I never got the stuff, you know what I mean? I never got sick. And ever since then, I guess that was 2 years ago now. It doesn't feel like 2 years. It feels like about 6 months. It feels like about a year ago. But ever since then, like I'll have that. Every time I get like a little itch right here, boom, and I'll fill it with I get the little tumbler cups, and I just put one ice cube in there, and I fill it up to the cube, so it's usually like 2 or 3 shots, and I'll just sip on that, and boom, and then I'll wake up the next day. Like I might end up sleeping in a little bit, maybe an extra hour to 3 hours normally, because I normally sleep 4 to 6 hours. So I might sleep in 7 to 8, and I feel just like boom, like what's up? Like I feel good, you know, like ready to go.
Feel good.
But and I'll keep that in you know, maybe in the liquor cabinet or something, you know, maybe hit that like once a week or less. But I do my beer, you know, and then Kraken. I like rum. Rum will do the same thing for me too, like a good rum, or even a tequila. Any 3 of those things: rye whiskey, tequila, or rum. Like boom.
Are you a vodka guy?
Vodka's all right.
Like my local pub, they do
California.
They do their own vodkas. So they'll do like a Skittles vodka that they make themselves, which is real fucking nice. They do a Werther's original vodka. That's my favorite one. That's a nice little sip and drink. You get a couple of shots of that with an ice cube or 2. You can nurse that thing for quite a while and be like, oh, that's too good. It goes down too easy. It starts tasting like ice cream after a while, and before you know it, you've had about 10 of them, and you're like, oh, it's going to be one of those nights.
Exactly. They just go down so easy. Hell yeah, man. Well, I was wondering, man, do you have any other things lined up in the works after Ed Gein that you could share, or is that going to be kept under wraps for a little bit?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Christian is going to be doing the art for a book of mine called Lady Satan, An Angel in a Killer's Dress, which is the story of a French stripper who gets abducted to be the star of a snuff film. And she does something that no one else has done before. She actually survives the experience and becomes a vigilante, a very violent and dark vigilante because of it. She travels around the world, taking down small-time crooks until she ends up on the shores of the UK. And she's trying to find the only copy of the snuff film that she was in. She's convinced that if she can find it and destroy it, her life can go back to normal. She can have a happy life again. And while she's searching for it, she discovers that the man who actually abused her and tortured her in front of the camera is a high-ranking British police officer who's about to be arrested by the MI5. So she's got this small window where she's like, I can actually get revenge on the person rather than just looking for the tape. I can get revenge on one of the people involved. But obviously he's being close eyes on him at all times. So it's a very dark revenge tale, a little revenge thriller. And it's going to be the first book in a series. You're going to find out there's a lot more to it after that. But still a very, with Ed Gein has a very comedic mode to it. It's not super comedy or anything like that. There are very serious moments in Ed Gein, but there's a lot of wry humor and a lot of gallows humor in there. Whereas Lady Satan is it's more of a dramatic mode. It's more of a deadpan, serious crime horror kind of vibe, and we don't pull any punches. There is some stuff in there that's going to really upset some people. So that's the next book which I'm doing with Christian.
Oh, okay.
And after that, I plan on doing a book called The Ballad of John Coffin, which I can't really say too much about, except the lead character, John Coffin himself, is a character who has a disorder called BIID, which stands for Body Identity Integrity Disorder. And the easiest way to describe that is if you have that particular disorder, you might look at your hand and think, that's not meant to be there. So you have this overwhelming urge to cut it off. There was a case many years ago where there was a woman who actually had BIID, and she was convinced, like her brain kept telling her, you shouldn't be able to see, you shouldn't have eyes. And she went to a psychologist to get treatment for it. And she ended up convincing him to pour bleach into her eyes in order to blind her.
Wow. Yeah. I think I heard something about that on actually YouTube. I was watching something where some lady had something about her teeth. I don't know, like, and ended up, she had pain, or I don't know, man. Like they ended up pulling her teeth out. But I was just like, wow, that's pretty out there, man. We're talking about how like killers could become, or criminals or whatnot, about their upbringings, like with Gein, and what my character Butch Cleaver is the same way for my book. He's brought up in an establishment, raised in slaughterhouses in my fantasy world, you know, and it kind of it turns him. He's born in one, and he ends up becoming a street enforcer and has no problem like taking people out and things like that, but he ends up dying and being resurrected into this bone manifestation, this necro character phantasm. And he has to figure out if he wants to be the victim, the villain, or the victor. So ultimately, you know, it's a struggle.
That's good.
The town is just filled with like all kinds of ghosts and ghouls and pirates and Native Americans and barbarians and Vikings and everything, you know, that you can think of pre, what is it, 1900s? Basically, it's an 1800s. But I was going to tell you about that if you didn't know about that. So.
Yeah, no, I have to keep an eye out for that. That sounds dope.
Thanks,
like,
man.
I like the sounds of that, because I always like the idea of. I think one way I can explain it is I saw this interview with Stephen Fry, where someone asked him like, "What's the difference between American storytelling and English storytelling?" And he did a really good job of explaining it. He said, "You know the movie Animal House? And you know the scene where outside the frat house, you got this guy with an acoustic guitar and he's playing folk music, and then Belushi comes down in his toga, grabs the guitar and smashes it, and then gives a little wink to the camera." And he said, US heroes in storytelling are Belushi. UK heroes in storytelling are the guy with the acoustic guitar.
I see.
And it's very, very on point. Like there is that theme with a lot of my characters. Like when I introduce them, it's like, Jesus Christ, they've already gone through hell, and now I'm going to put them through even more hell in a story. I just find that's a lot more interesting than here's perfect person in everyday life, and then we're going to upset their life. No, make their life a little uncomfortable. And then when the story begins, you make it really uncomfortable.
And push it
because if something, exactly. Because if you're comfortable and then something's made on like really uncomfortable, it's more of a nuisance than anything. But if your life is already slightly uncomfortable, you try to ignore it, and then the more discomfort that's built up, you can't ignore it, and you're pushed to do something about it. You know, so that's one of my approaches when it comes to like lead characters in storytelling.
That's awesome. I think it's hard too, like for me, like because I'm not working on Butch right now. I'm working on Hell War, which is it's like a heavy metal Norse bounty hunter in the 90s, and just cool. It's like Thor, Lobo, and Hulk put together. That's what it is. That's a
sold. Take my money. I'll get my crayons out and make you the best counterfeit money ever.
Thanks, man. But I was wondering, man, like with like for me, I think like with villains, like if you're doing the traditional thing with heroes and villains, right? I think it's for me now. I have to make my villains really villainous. Like there can't be that redeeming value. They have to be bad, like really bad. And I know it. Even I make characters that are like that, where we have to have where the villainy came from. You know what I mean? But I think it's hard too for me, because I'm so interested in the villain. Sometimes they're more interesting, if not most of the time. But it's hard to not make the villainous side interesting. It's as opposed to making it like you want him. It's hard to write them because you want your reader to hate them, and they need to know that they're extreme evil, and it defines the hero more. It's hard for me to put it into words, but it's hard to make the villain the villain now.
So I get what you mean, because I do feel that villains should have some redeeming quality. Not all villains, though.
Right.
Like
right.
I think it should be a bit of a lottery. Like one book you'll do it and you'll be like, no, this person's just hardcore fucked in the head.
Yeah. Like there's
and then
no
the next one,
yeah,
and then the next one, it's like, well, they just made a bad decision in life. Because at the end of the day, I'm not someone who believes in the real world. I don't believe in good and evil. I believe in hunger. And like that to me just drives everything, is a hunger for something. And when we see like on the news, if we hear about like someone's gone into the mall and they've shot the place up, what they've done is fucking horrible. But what we don't ask, and I think that we should with our stories, is we should ask that question of what did they think this was a solution to? What was the problem that they thought this was the solution to? Because did anyone like look at the same problem and say, oh, you do realize there is another solution? Because sometimes we do get blindsided when life is being a bit cruel to us. We do get blindsided and very focused on something, and we don't see all the other options. So sometimes people do shit, not because they're bad. It's because they feel that there's no other option. There's no other choice. It doesn't justify what they do, but I've always been brought up to think of things as it's not what someone does that matters, it's why they do it. And I believe there's a lot of truth to that statement. So when it comes to villains, I don't worry too much about whether I'm making them just a mustache twirling villain who's tying the woman to the rail tracks, or whether I'm making them nuanced, because I do believe that should, like I said, it should be like a lottery. You pick a book and you go for it, and if they're nuanced, they're nuanced. If they're not, they're not. To me, I think what makes a good villain when you're writing the villain or when you're developing the villain is when they have a philosophy that creates a conflict, a philosophical conflict with the hero, but when they explain their philosophy to the hero has a hard time turning around and saying, that's bullshit.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at Thanos.
Questioning it.
Yeah, like with Thanos in Infinity War, and I'm sure he's going to be an example that people use for fucking decades to come.
Oh, yeah.
But when he explains his whole, like, I want to get rid of half the universe, at first you're like, you're a fucking madman. And then he explains why. Mm-hmm. And that's the point where you go, you're a madman who's got a point.
Yeah.
And like, you don't just feel like, oh my God, he's a bad fucking villain or a badass villain. You start questioning yourself and going, oh, fuck. And it comes back to that thing that I said earlier. Like, if you were in that person's shoes going through the same ordeals or the same experiences, don't try and tell me that you wouldn't have done the same thing, if not something worse. And that's what truly scares us. If we want to make a scary villain, we have to be able to present them in such a way that the reader goes, I can't guarantee that I wouldn't do the same things if I was walking in their shoes.
Well put, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll probably wrap it up right now, brother. Is there any other thing that you'd like to say about Ed Gein or anything else?
Just like I said, if you can check out Ed Gein, please do. If you can't back it, then please share the campaign. Like, sharing is absolutely free. And let's face it, who doesn't like being shared? Come on, who doesn't want to be shared?
Well, everybody does. Myself included.
Failing that, if anyone's skeptical about this book and is like, I don't know, maybe not, do me a favor, go over to my website. It's www.luciferstorm.com. Sign up for my mailing list, because I do weekly emails to everyone on the mailing list. I'm starting this Thursday, where if you are signed up to my mailing list, every week you're going to get a free mini video podcast episode that is exclusive to the mailing list. But upon signing up, you'll get a free digital copy of Ed Gein Demon Hunter issue 1 in its entirety. So if you're skeptical, sign up for the mailing list.
There you go.
Check out issue 1, and then it's up to you from there on out.
There you go, folks. Sign up. You read the first book, and you can see if you want to jump on. Me, yeah. I just backed it from the get, and then I heard people were like talking. It was getting good reviews, so
that's because you're a wise man. What can I say?
Well, thanks, man. Where can people find you, Lucifer?
Like I said, you can go to luciferstorm.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just look for Lucifer Storm or The Lucifer Storm or The Real Lucifer Storm. It'd be so much easier if I just said Lucifer Storm. But unfortunately, that's taken on some platforms. There's accept no substitutes. I'm the real one.
You heard it here, folks. He is the real one. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for coming on, Lucifer. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, man.
Like to do it again sometime.
Hell yeah, I'm
chatting with you and picking your brain. Always remember, folks, be bold, be brave, and roll the bones to know your role.